We've been at war now since 2001. We have a lot of young kids who've been out doing all the heavy lifting, and that's all they know. They came out of high school, that's all they know. And we need to help those guys come out and understand what's going on, what they can do, because they're thinking, you know what, I'm a trigger puller. That's all I know. No, it's not. You've led 8 guys or 20 people, or 30, you've done this, you've done that. Let's help transition those skills into the civilian workplace. And that's where hiring veterans really comes in well, because you have these young kids coming out thinking they don't know anything but doing what they were doing in the military, and then it's like, you have no idea how valuable you are.
One of our company's principles and values is to promote and have diversity and inclusion of difference of thought. So that comes from people with different backgrounds and people with different experiences, and obviously veterans are a huge part of that, and they're a group that literally speaks to that diversity of thought and background and experiences. So our efforts and our initiatives are to be more than just an affirmative action plan, a percent, a statistic. We want to really create that part of it, to be part of our culture, of our identity, of our pedigree. So we make every effort, and we promote the effort of recruiting and hiring and including the veterans in our workforce. I think that what they don't realize is how much leadership they have in them. And leadership is such an ambiguous word. You don't always know how to apply it, but that comes in understanding the people around you, being more receptive to one another. It's not just about the work skills, because that's something we can train here. It's the soft skills that we're looking for, and veterans usually tend to have those a lot more well developed.
I shudder to think of what I would have done without the military. When I was younger, I flew, so we'd be on the aircraft carrier, and you'd get up, figure out, you'd know the night before what you were going to do for that day, if you're going to be flying or if you're going to have the duty and be a ground guy. And my favorite job, I was a line division officer. So I had all the 18, 19 years old, just out of A school in the Navy. They're the ones getting the planes ready to go flying. So you'd have a really young, ambitious group of guys who were brand new to the Navy, and you got to sit there and work with these guys, and you come back from a hop and they go, what's going on, what happened, what'd you guys do? Because they have no idea. They're just getting the jets ready, that's their world. But then when you can tie that world to what you're doing, they get why they're doing it. And that's the neat thing about the military experience, is it gives you those skill sets to understand how people tick, how you maybe have to modify your way of dealing with people to get results.
We know that veterans carry a lot of amazing skill sets with them. They're not just their occupational specialty. They have so much more that they bring to the table. And those are all great skill sets for any company.
You see what leadership,
team building,
skills, team building.
Yeah, communication skill is a huge one. And management of people, understanding safety and security.
Innovative thinking, operating in a diverse environment. These are all skills that our veteran population brings to play that a lot of times they don't even think about when they transition, because it's not part of their job description. It's just what you do.
Actually deployed for the first time last year. I was deployed overseas to the Sandbox and did the same mission that I was trained every weekend to do here at Wright Pat. When I first joined Synchrony, I was a reservist at the time, but I had no idea the level of understanding and care that Synchrony has for its veterans and currently serving members. And so I didn't know about that until probably about a year or so into my time at working with Synchrony, and I found out about the Veterans Network. And what the Veterans Network is, it allows vets currently serving members of the armed forces, as well as what we call our passionate patriots. So these are folks that did not serve in the military, but they understand the sacrifice that our service members have had to make. And so they are there to support any endeavors, whether it be outreach in the community, raising money that goes to helping out vets. They are there doing the exact same work that our service members are doing within the organization.
So I was in the Air Force as an officer, and GE has a program called Junior Officer Leadership Program, JOLP, where they essentially look to recruit talented officers from the military to be in future leadership positions. The way I like to look at it is it sort of gives me an ability to have a diverse skill set here at GE that I would have had I worked here my entire career. I just completed my first work assignment, which was here in Dayton, Delano, working as a manufacturing programs manager. 8-month rotations in the military. I changed job assignments once a year, so that's really fairly similar. Some of the differences are when I come to GE, I'm trying to understand the rank structure, and it's not a direct correlation, so that's a little bit odd. One of the biggest differences was I wasn't wearing a uniform anymore, so I actually have to dress myself. And sometimes I get out of my car and I'm outside and I'm like, wait, where's my cover from the military time? I think right now, one of the things the military is really working on is their transition program and how they prepare service members for their transition to the civilian sector.
I just remember sitting in the transition assistance program, writing down, I'm not really sure why I did this, because maybe it was because I didn't know what else to do, but I sat in the transition assistance program and just wrote down websites. And I finished the week and I had like 6 pages of websites. And then I was like, what am I going to do with this? Why did I do that?
I got a lot out of TAP. I thought it was very valuable, but the problem is it was so much information in such a short period of time that it was very easy to data dump. You're learning in 1 week, you're trying to learn all your benefits, you're learning how to do a resume, how to do an interview, how to dress for success. There's just such a variety of information that comes out of the TAP program in a 1 week period that it's a challenge to keep up. When you go back and you do it 6 months to a year before you transition out of the service, if you're not applying some of the skills right away, I didn't apply the skills right away, so TAP became less value added to me.
It's a great idea that every veteran has to go through it and that it's congressionally mandated, because we remember the days where, you know, you just signed the paperwork, you checked out of your unit and you were gone, and there was no transition. And those weren't good days. And a lot of those people are still not getting benefits that they deserve because nobody held their hand and said, hey, you know, you can fill out this piece of paper and look at particular different benefits that you earned through your service.
As a veteran, I'm really happy to see they have these things put into place to better help you during your time of transition, at least to provide you with some resources and give you some direction and guidance. So the purpose of today's briefing, it's mandated by Title X, and I'm just going to talk about some things that are available to you, places to go for help while you're transitioning.
One of the things that I'm learning is, you know, the different websites and the things that they do offer us is amazing, because these are things that we didn't know about, you know, just being regular soldiers, that when you get ready to get out, you're like, oh man, like, okay, so we got people that really are looking out for us, and it's really helped me a lot.
On that paper in front of you is every website we're going to be talking about this morning. What I like teaching about this class is really connecting with the veterans, or the people that will be veterans, just to see individually what it is they need and what I can do on my part to help them connect to have a successful transition. Back in the 90s, I served in the military for 6 years, and I didn't have, you know, transition assistance program was optional. We watched a VHS tape called From Air Force Blue to Corporate Gray, and I really couldn't tell you anything about what it was about, but I do remember one of the thoughts I had was, if I'm having this tough of a time transitioning as someone who served for 6 years, what would it feel like for someone who's been in for 20 plus years? And so that has always really stuck with me about knowing, it wasn't even about the financial aspect, it was just about the feeling of camaraderie, working with people similar to you. It's such a small population that serves with the military, so it's a real strong family aspect to that, and kind of having that taken away was very difficult.
All right. Ellen, you going back to work? Come on, this is a week of 5 days. Guess what? You're in top.
I think the program runs pretty smoothly, but it can be chaotic because you're trying to deal with over 1,200 people go through this class a year. And we have at least 40 to 50 people who leave every month who are actually exiting the military. But it's a lot of information. It's an information overload. It can be very stressful. We also have to keep up with the emotions of everyone leaving. We have to keep up with the organization of what they have to turn in for Department of Defense, because regardless, we still work for the government. We still have to make sure that's taken care of. And we have to make sure that people truly understand that, hey, you're leaving the military. You're not going to be sergeant or captain or lieutenant. You're going to be Mike, John, Bob, or Michelle. Either way it goes, it can be chaotic, it can be fun, and it could be a smooth transition, or it can be a wild transition.
When you're in the military, you don't have to live with a resume or an interview process for your assignments. You get orders that tell you where you're going to go, who you're going to work for, who's going to work for you, what your job's going to be. It basically lays everything out on paper for you. So when you leave the military service, you leave with an incredible broad spectrum of technical knowledge, but you have basically high school level job seeking skills.
I left active duty in 1999. I came to the GE Capital side, and there was a big military hiring going on at GE back in those days, like today with a lot of companies. So I showed up and I was just like, oh my God, this is so different. And it's just because you don't know what's going on. You don't know what people do outside of the military. The good news is the military also preps you, I think, really well for resiliency. At least in my case, I knew this was going to be totally different. So how do you embrace that? How do you learn that? How do you figure this culture out?
Honestly, the program was pretty well set up. It worked well for me personally. So with that being said, I almost felt like it was overhyped. Like, I talked to a lot of people who would transition, and they were like, "Oh, it's really weird to be out of the military." And then when I finally made it to be out of the military, I was like, "Okay, this isn't as weird as I kind of expected it to be."
When I transitioned out, I went through the transition assistance program at the base and very promptly brain flushed just about everything I learned, because I did it about 9 months before I retired. And I ended up I had a lot of things on the regular duty schedule that took priority. So I put it off and put it off and put it off. And it was almost an example of how not to do a transition the right way. I lived that. I waited to do my resume until I was actually on terminal leave. So I've got 2 months to get a resume out there and find a job. I started doing job fairs at that point. So I put myself behind the power curve. I did not know how to do an effective resume because all the lessons that I got from TAP had long since been put away. So I made something that looked like the resume I saw in the book and turned it out there, and it was an absolute failure. There was a lot of lessons that I took from that process, and learning the value of networking and connections, and that's what really started me on this path. And I realized, I can do something for other people so they don't live the same dream I did, so they don't make the mistakes I did, so they can get into the system better when they leave the military service. Cassie and I get to go talk to every TAP class, and it's a short block, and it's pretty much we get to give an introduction to the support we can provide to them after TAP. Basically, we're here to fill the gaps and give them a resource to reach back to after they get done with the TAP program, even after they leave the service, to help them with their transition process. But on top of that, it's a chance for both of us to talk about lessons learned, which I think is probably one of the things that's best received by the group, is they're going to listen to two people who went through TAP, in some cases who did their transition as wrong as they possibly could and still managed to find a job. It gives us some chance to tell them, it's like, this is what we did. You probably don't want to do it the way we did. But we find that opportunity because Wright-Patterson's given us that opportunity. I think that helps a lot of the folks going through TAP. They're getting the benefit of practical experience.
I still am pretty active in the veteran community outside of GE. So I make sure if I meet somebody and they're a veteran, I'm like, what are you doing? Do you like it? What are you thinking? Because they may be in something where they thought, you know what, this is a stopgap. You know, I just want to do this for a while and then I'm going to do that. And like right now here at Unison, you know, we need welders, we need trades, we need stuff like that. And so it's like, you know, hey, have you thought about, and just you get the word out. But I tell them there's things out there you can be doing. There's places to go. You know, don't be afraid to ask questions. I've had mentors throughout my life. If I see somebody or I have a friend who's got a kid coming out of the military, I'm like, have them get a hold of me. You know, have her give me a shout, because they don't know what they don't know. And having somebody who's been out there, no matter what the rank, it's scary. So I don't care if you're a kid coming out, you know, of your 4-year hitch, or, you know, you're a retired captain coming out of the Navy or something. It's a little daunting. And it helps seeing that somebody else has been there before you, had all the same concerns you had, and they're doing okay.
Right before I deployed, I received an email from a representative from the National Veterans Network Council and asked me if I wouldn't mind having my name on a wristband. And this is the wristband. And it says Synchrony Veterans Network, and then it has my name, Aaron Stokes. So there were 2 other people who deployed around the same time that I deployed, and the Veterans Network made, I believe, 400 to 500 of these for everybody. And they passed them out at the Diversity Symposium and then allowed for representatives to take them back to their home locations. When I tell you that the amount of gifts and love was overwhelming, it was nothing short of that. I mean, I received over 30 to 40 packages from my team, from the Veterans Network, from the African American Network, from everyone at the Kettering site. Even some of my clients sent things over to me. So, I mean, it truly showed my troops, because I shared with every one of them and even had enough left over to leave for the next group that came through. But it showed them that Synchrony truly is a great place to work, and that they care most of all about the individual, and that we're not just another number to them.
And there's no better day for me when I get an email from a veteran who said, hey, you know, I'm here now. I'm in this company and I couldn't be happier. That's just an amazing feeling, and I want to do more of that. So it's really become a huge passion for me.